More wide receiver news from the Seattle Seahawks. This from Tom Pelissero. Two-time Pro Bowl wide receiver DK Metcalf has requested a trade, and the Seahawks have agreed to explore options, sources tell me and Ian Rappaport. Days before free agency, the 27-year-old Metcalf immediately becomes the top receiver available. Also, don't forget T. Higgins has been franchise tagged, so he's not available to sign in free agency. Bump, your thoughts?
My thoughts are, I didn't think the Seahawks would willingly trade this man, and that's not the case. So the last couple of weeks I've been saying there's no way the Hawks are going to trade. Now, DK coming to them and requesting a trade, that is completely different because we all know that DK is very headstrong with his opinions and how he feels about things. And if he is not happy, you don't want him in that environment. And it's best for the Seahawks and it's best for him that they do find a deal. This one hurts because I feel like DK was going to be a big part of this offense. I felt like there are some things that he can do on the backside of things, but I also think that DK sees the writing on the wall and he's saying, well, JSN is the number one here. JSN probably fits his offense better. Let me go somewhere else and shine. Or maybe there's some relationship stuff going on. But at no point did I think the Seahawks themselves would say, hey, we're trading DK. It's different when the man himself comes to you and says, hey, I want to get out of here.
Do you think that this has anything to do with where Clint Kubiak's offense could go? Because John Schneider has reiterated the focus on getting back to the run, but then when we talked with Mike Haas or a number of other people who've analyzed Clint Kubiak as a play caller, they're like, this is a guy that could use DK. This is a guy that can make the most of him. So I'm kind of like, is this about the scheme Seattle's about to roll out? Do you think this is DK saying, I'm not going to get 1,500 yards here?
Possibly. It's a run-first type of offense. And DK being the 6'3", 223-pound, 4'3" runner, he wants to be able to open that thing up and go get it. I think he would be able to do that, but in this offense, I don't see him going for 1,500 yards when you have a JSN in that deal. And you can feel the way you want to about DK requesting to be traded, but he's trying to set himself up. He's like, look, I'm 26 years old. I probably got 4 or 5 really good years left in me. Let me go ahead and maximize my talent. JSN is the number one receiver. And I think we've been dancing around it, or people have been dancing around it saying, oh, 1A and 1B. We saw the way that the season ended. It felt like JSN was taking another step forward because he can do a few more things that DK can't, though DK can open it up the way that JSN can. This is DK being selfish, and it's okay for him to be selfish right here. It's okay for him to want to put himself in a position where he can be considered the elite of the elite. Now, he's got to go wherever he goes. He's got to go out there and do it. But I'm not mad at DK for requesting a trade because I understand why. And if the Hawks were to willingly go out there and do it, then I would have a problem. Like, what are y'all doing? But the fact that 14 wants to go, man, you got to explore it.
It sounds like this decision was made today. Tom Pelissero said DK Metcalf and the Seahawks met today, and the decision was made to pursue trade opportunities. Metcalf has 1 year and $18 million left on his contract, and any team giving up the type of compensation it would take to get him will likely want to do a new deal. We already knew that. Yeah. Whatever team is going to acquire, this is with any trade. If you acquire a guy entering the final year of his contract and you're giving up real draft capital, you're doing it because you're going to extend him. We saw the Seahawks do that with Jamal Adams. It happens all the time. So, of course. This, to me, Bump, is different than the Seahawks actively shopping DK Metcalf.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't think that's something that was happening.
No.
Based on what I have heard, I don't know. I have not heard confirmation of this, that the Seahawks were actively shopping DK regularly.
No.
The only thing I know is that the same thing everyone else does. A trade was always possible, and that there have always been questions about whether DK would be able to get the yardage, get the production he wants here.
Yeah. No, my sources have told me that teams are always calling about DK and that the Seahawks were not entertaining it. Now that DK has requested the trade, you have to entertain it because you don't want to force someone to be in a place where they don't want to be. You don't want to be. If you don't want to be in Seattle, then your demeanor changes. Maybe your work ethic changes. Like the quality of your life changes. You got to start thinking about the human being DK Metcalf, right? If he don't want to be here, he's going to be miserable. And it almost spreads throughout your organization at times. So find a spot for DK and make sure you get something out of it. The jacked up part about this situation is who you going to get to replace a DK Metcalf, right? A solidified number one at one point, number two receiver who can go for 1,200 yards at a blink of an eye and 10 to 12 touchdowns. A big outside receiver that will put pressure on the safeties and allow you just to throw out 50-50 footballs. Who are you going to get that is equivalent to that? And is that the type of receiver that Kubiak wants? You look at what he had over there with the New Orleans Saints. He had a big X receiver that can go get it. I forgot the young man's name over there, but he had that type of person.
No, I'm blanking.
No,
he's not there.
He had that type of personnel over there. So I would assume that he would go out there and try to find that. But where is that person, and who is willing to trade him?
Well, and we know that you can have that type of receiver on a team that runs the ball a ton. Look at the Philadelphia Eagles. A.J. Brown's still going to get his targets. Now, you're going to have some tension, I'm sure, when he's like, hey, it would be great if I could get a little bit more here. But that being said, a balanced attack and a team that can take shots downfield and run the ball on you is the deadliest type of offense. What I worry with the Seattle Seahawks, and the reason that I was hoping that DK wasn't moved, is that you can say as a team, we want to be a run-first offense. We want to run the ball more. What you do well is pass the ball. Stats are stats. Like, yeah, you need to add to your interior offensive line. And, yeah, you have good running backs. You've got 2 second-rounders in that backfield. But you were 28th in rushing yards per game last year.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that without 2 of your top 3 targets, you think that you can go from 28th to somehow like this killer offense? And maybe you can, but I think that any idea of shed what you're good at is a risk.
I think the DK request tells me that obviously they're going to have to switch their approach up a little bit. I think now they focus on really getting a baller tight end now, because we know in this Kubiak offense, tight ends play a huge role in that whole situation. Mm-hmm. Not to say that you don't need an outside receiver that can go get the football. Yes, you do. You need that. You got to go find that. But maybe it shifts a little bit. Jason is clearly the number 1 receiver. Now you go ahead and you go find yourself another versatile tight end that can block and get after the football when it's in the air. This makes this offseason spicy as heck right now. Locke is gone. DK wants a trade. What are you going to do, Seattle Seahawks? Kubiak offense is relying on the tight ends. Do you put more effort there? You still got to fix this offensive line. It just got spicy. This is a midday novella. That's a soap opera.